Welcome to another edition of That Time When. I am Matt Miller. This is the podcast series where I take you through the archive of Trekzone, diving into things that you might have missed or might want to catch again. This episode should gain some traction and hopefully you'll click through on the links to catch the episode in full. It is my chat with none other than the Candyman himself, Mr. Tony Todd.
This is Trekzone's That Time When. And you can get exclusive behind-the-scenes info and first-play access to all Trekzone podcasts by becoming a member today. Click join on every Trekzone video on YouTube. Go to thetrek.zone/support or scan the QR code on screen throughout the show.
Welcome to the show. You'll recognise my guest today as either the Candyman, Sergeant Warren from Platoon, Kern from TNG or DS9, as well as older Jake Sisko and the Alpha Hirogen in Voyager, and most recently Dojin, the Mocklin delegate on last week's episode of The Orville. I'm honoured Tony Todd is here to have a Trekzone conversation. Tony, welcome and thanks for stopping by Trekzone.
And I'm honored to be a part of Trekzone as I am of all Star Trek legacy. So thank you and your fans very much for the continual support of the Star Trek legacy.
In the very beginning of your Star Trek ride, Tony, that first casting call for Kern, what drew you into the role?
Well, we knew that we liked each other. I'd auditioned for them 5 times before I got Kern. And it was practically every 10 days. So it was like every episode before. And I think I lucked out because I ended up with the best role out of the 6. And to play a Klingon is an honor and an obligation. And to work opposite my brother Michael Dorn and be part of the family lineage was beyond a dream, beyond compare. I grew up as a fan, the woman that raised me, my Aunt Clara, who rescued me at the age of 3. And it just pointed me in the right direction all through my life. Every summer I was involved in a new program, whether it was geology or science or arts or museum studies. I just always had my mind challenged and active. And I honor her for every role I've gotten, but particularly Star Trek, because we used to watch the originals together and she would use that as a morality lesson for me. Who were the good guys? Who were the bad guys? Who were the in-between guys?
Well, Kern had a complete arc throughout the 4 episodes he appeared in, ending up assuming the identity of Rodek in the episode Sons of Moog. What drew you back to the character time and again, and especially on another Star Trek show?
Because it was the same character, so I didn't want the character to die. Now, I must say that with Sons of Moog, it was one of the few jobs where I didn't read the script before I said yes. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done that episode, because not just for me and the fact that they erased Kern's memory, but more so for my brother Worf, because that is beneath the dignity of a Klingon warrior to do that to his own sibling. So for those reasons alone, I wish I'd erased Sons of Moog. It's still a fine episode. It stands on its own, but I don't think that a Klingon, particularly a familial Klingon, would do that to another member of his own genre.
Well, you were the lead in the fantastic Season 4 episode, The Visitor, portraying the older Jake. Yeah. An episode I feel first realised the potential of the character of Sisko's son. How did you tackle that episode?
Well, first of all, that's one of my favorite hours of television that I've done. I'll stand by that. It's gotten all kinds of awards and accolades from the fans, and I really appreciate that. Again, everything goes back to my aunt who raised me, okay? She had passed away, and I was literally inconsolable for about 2-3 months. And out of the blue, script appeared. And it was as if she was saying, you have to channel me, because it was, playing older Jake Sisko, who was like in his 80s. You have to get up, channel me, use the mannerisms that I've shown you all your life, and pay homage to me. So that was a tribute to her. And I'm proud to have done that. It was probably my favorite Star Trek experience, and I'll never forget it.
The parallels of that episode then must have been uncanny, and were they difficult to work through?
No, it was like a cathartic release. It was a joy. It was like I'm on stage, I'm on camera, and I knew that it would be forever cherished. And I was proud to be able and asked to act in it. It was great.
Well, 2 years after Kern's farewell, you guested on Voyager as the Alpha Herogen in our introduction to the species. Were there any differences working on Voyager compared to Next Gen or DS9?
I knew their casting process, and I know they try to hire the best actor for the job. So I knew, and the same casting director cast all 4 shows. The only one I didn't do was Enterprise. And I still don't know why they didn't ask me. But anyway, it's great to help create a new species in the Herosians. Now, I must say that I've done a lot of prosthetics, and the prosthetics on that character were the most difficult I've ever had. Not only did it take 6 hours to put on, but I had to notify wardrobe department, makeup department a half hour before I had to go to the bathroom. I don't know about you, but not many people can predict that. Oh, I think it's coming now. Wait a minute, 15 minutes until due day. So that perplexed, perpetual look of dissatisfaction on his face is because of severe bodily punches gone wrong.
I suppose it would have been light lunches during the week of filming, wouldn't it?
So I was grazing like a gazelle on that episode, and no water.
Well, we can't.
Or coffee.
Well, that's really challenging, especially with all those long hours on set.
Isn't it? Yeah, you guys don't know the sacrifices some of these Star Trek veterans have put up with now. You don't know. But the makeup department, they do an excellent job. At the time, it was Michael Westmoreland, and he does and his crew of 60, sometimes 100 when there's a large cast of aliens. I mean, they're very particular and take their painstaking time to create a believable face that the actor can then inhabit. And they've already done half the battle. You're watching yourself transform in front of the mirror 4 hours, playing Kern, for example, or even on Jake on the Visitor. My last day on set was a Sunday. My call time was 1 a.m. to be on set at 6 a.m. And we didn't wrap until 9 p.m. that night. It was my longest day of shooting ever.
Wow.
And I ran into David Livingston, who used to produce Deep Space Nine and directed my episode about 2 weeks ago, coming out of a popular grocery store. And we just acknowledged each other and both know that we did our job in that show. And as an actor, that's all you can do is to walk away from the director, and he's going to be the first one he calls when he has a project that's right for you.
Of course, we can't just talk about Star Trek, Tony. You've done so much other work, including many films in the horror genre. Candyman, 4 of the 5 Final Destination films, Night of the Living Dead, Wishmaster and Minotaur, just to name a few. Is there something about horror films that attracts you to them?
No, it was the luck of the draw. I mean, after my first film, which was Platoon, which went on the War Academy Awards, so I was immediately put on the list and started getting all kinds of auditions on a regular basis. I think Night of the Living Dead actually came first, and that was my introduction to the horror world. And working with Tom Savini was a dream come true, and it was my first lead role. And my son was born. I was in an elevated state of ecstasy. Even though I had to deal with zombies every night for 6 weeks. And then after Night of the Living Dead, Candyman came along with this crazy British chap who's a dear friend of mine, Bernard Rose, who told me that you'll never walk away from this character. I said, Bernard, it's a job first and foremost, but at the end of the day, he was right. And I've discovered something, because it used to bother me. People say, I watched the film, it scared me to death when I was a child. And I always thought that we didn't make a babysitting service movie. But Bernard broke it down for me. And he let me know that any person that's seen the movie when they were little will remember it for the rest of their lives. So I stand corrected on that legacy.